One can't imagine what his mind was doing after he shot and killed someone in self-defense, but nonetheless, a man is dead.
A Bokeelia man dead, his body driven to a local attorney's office in the back of a pickup truck. The man who says he killed him, 52-year-old John Marshall, seen here in a previous mugshot, telling his attorney, Robert Harris, that he did it in self-defense. All of this after the victim allegedly threatened his life. And good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Patrick Nolan. Here's what we know so far tonight. Lee County Sheriff's deputies have identified the victim as 65-year-old Theodore Hubble Jr. And according to Marshall's attorney, yesterday evening he drove about 25 miles from Bokeelia on Pine Island to his law office in downtown Fort Myers. That's about a 45-minute drive minimum, with Hubble's dead body in the back of his pickup truck the whole time. Now, he reportedly admitted to killing Hubble, saying it happened in self-defense. But after hours of questioning by Lee County Sheriff's deputies, he was released. Tonight, 4 in Your Corner's Lisa Greenberg sitting down with that attorney, Robert Harris, asking him about exactly what happened in Bokeelia yesterday and why Marshall has not been arrested. Lisa.
Well, Patrick, attorney Robert Harris tells me he's still in shock about the bizarre situation that unfolded at his law firm yesterday. But he says after talking to Marshall and looking at the evidence, he believes it's a clear-cut self-defense case. So why would Marshall drive the body to the law firm? And did this help his case?
It was a rural area, and it doesn't appear that anyone was around. So if Mr. Marshall wanted to simply get away with this, he would have just run.
Attorney Robert Harris telling me his client, John Marshall, is innocent. Marshall showed up at the Robert Harris law firm in Fort Myers yesterday afternoon with the body of his neighbor, Theodore Hubble Jr., in the back of his pickup following a fight at Marshall's house in Bokeelia.
The man pulled a gun and hit my client in the face. Of course, my client was in fear for his life and thought he was going to die.
During the scuffle, Harris says the gun went off, killing Hubble. Fort Myers Police and Lee County Sheriff's deputies investigating the area surrounding the Robert Harris law firm and the property in Bokeelia. Harris tells me this wasn't the first time his client was threatened by Hubble.
He'd already called our office a couple of days earlier and made a police report about an incident earlier this week where this Mr. Hubble had threatened his life.
We requested and received this Lee County report from February 27th, indicating John Marshall called in about an ongoing dispute with his neighbor over placement of an outhouse. The report says Mr. Ted Hubble stated he never threatened Marshall. Whatever happened Wednesday night, Marshall's attorney says his 45-minute drive from Bokeelia was a knee-jerk reaction.
Is this a smart decision to come to the lawyer's office with a body like this?
I wouldn't advise anything like that, but it may have helped Mr. Marshall in the end because he was with his lawyers, and his lawyers could kind of control the situation.
Marshall was questioned at the office with his attorney present.
What do you have to say to people who think maybe this was a way for Mr. Marshall to get out of this crime?
Well, I would say that Mr. Marshall made a decision that wasn't very conscious. I mean, he doesn't even really remember the ride over here. So this wasn't a premeditated issue.
Marshall has not been arrested at this time, and Harris says he's hopeful the sheriff's office will not make the call to have him arrested. Now, this isn't the first time Marshall's been involved in a violent situation. In fact, he was arrested last September for aggravated battery, using a deadly weapon.
According to the Cape Coral Police report, 52-year-old John Marshall got into an altercation last September at the McDonald's on Pine Island Road. The victim in this case was trying to back into his parking space when Marshall's teal Honda pulled up behind him, blocking him from the spot. The victim then exited his vehicle to go explain what he was trying to do. 2 different times. After the second time, Marshall then backed his vehicle up, steered toward the direction of where the victim was standing, and drove directly at him. The victim attempted to move back toward his car, but was struck against his will by the front bumper of Marshall's vehicle and fell to the ground. Marshall backed up and sped away from the scene. Police traced Marshall's license plate number and arrested him for aggravated battery.
Now, I was kind of doing a little bit of research into Mr. Marshall. He has a little bit of like a violent past in Lee County.
Well, we have a pre-existing relationship with him, and that's all I can really say about that.
Marshall told police in this case he tried to back up and drive around the victim when he threw himself to the ground for no reason in front of his car.
Now, Marshall is still awaiting his trial for that case, and again, he has not been arrested in the death of Theodore Hubble Jr. Count on 4 in Your Corner to bring you the latest in this developing situation. Live in the studio, Lisa Greenberg, Fox 4 in Your Corner.